And welcome once again to another episode of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. I'm glad that you are joining me this evening because the week of the Super Bowl, I could not think of a better guest to have on the show. This guest that I have on the show, I give him a lot of credit for helping me start my podcast 4 years ago. I was a guest on his podcast called Tennessee Titans Talk, and oddly enough, we have the same exact Super Bowl we had 4 years ago. Please welcome to the show host of the Tennessee Titans Talk podcast, Nathan Spiess.
Hey, Richard. Good to be with you.
All right, so Nathan, so 4 years ago, you had me on your podcast because you knew I was a 49ers fan. We were talking about the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers in Super Bowl 54. Unfortunately, it did not go the 49ers' way. They lose the game 31-20 after blowing a 20-10 lead. They had the ball, and now 4 years later, here we are again. It's the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 58. And oddly enough, they're going to have the same uniforms as Super Bowl 54. And a lot of changes. I actually think, Nathan, that the defense for the Chiefs is a lot better. Patrick Mahomes is a little bit more seasoned. He'd already have two Super Bowls. But I think the big upgrade is the 49ers have a much better quarterback in Brock Purdy compared to Jimmy Garoppolo.
Richard, I think that's where we have to start. The narrative is going to be Mahomes and the legacy and already starting where he goes in the canon of history. But I think the chief narrative is, can San Francisco win one? Can Shanahan cement his legacy? Can CMC cement his legacy? They were so close, like you said, 4 years ago. This is the time. This is the year for them to absolutely win them. I like this improved defense for Kansas City. I love Mahomes, Reed, and all that, but they can beat this team. They have the talent, and this is the time to go do it. We've seen really talented players and coaches just go their entire career and end up just short. And I don't think we're going to see that for Shanahan and CMC and Deebo Samuel and others, but this is the time for them to win. And if I think for those of us that follow this sport closely, I think that's the chief narrative.
Well, Nathan, as a lifelong San Francisco 49ers fan, I would love for them to win their sixth Super Bowl in franchise history. But I've had some heartbreak in the last 13 years with the Super Bowls the 49ers have been in, the blackout game, obviously down 28-6, but they did come back. They were so close to winning that. And then 4 years ago, losing to the Kansas City Chiefs. They haven't won one since the 1994 season when Steve Young threw 6 touchdown passes against the San Diego Chargers. But as a Bay Area sports fan, there's plenty of wealth of riches when it comes to championships in the Bay Area. It's not like it's a depressed city that hasn't won one in over 50 years. I mean, the Warriors won a title a couple of years ago. The Giants won 3 World Series titles in the early 2010s. As 49ers fans, it would be great for the San Francisco 49ers to stamp their legacy, get their 6th Super Bowl, and tie the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New England Patriots for the most Super Bowls all time.
Yeah, that's big. Also, I think these things live in a vacuum. I think what the Giants were able to do is amazing, obviously, with the Warriors. But if 49ers fans don't walk away with a win in a game they feel like they should win Sunday evening, they're not going to be falling back on those Warriors wins. They're going to be thinking about 95 and how it's been nearly 30 years since they won a Super Bowl. They have the talent to win a Super Bowl. They have had the talent. This is, I think, the best team they've had that's made the Super Bowl. This is it. This is the year. I don't think there is anything else to fall back on. As a big-time a pundit and a big-time, fan of San Francisco sports, if they win Sunday night, Richard, what's the one thing you're going to walk away and say, are you pretty confident it's going to be? For instance, to say that running game is going to have to just really break through, or they're going to have to hold this player or that. What's the ingredient? What is it going to take Sunday night specifically for them to get this win they haven't had in 30 years?
Well, Nathan, I actually think that the 49ers defense, who has played terrible against the Packers and the Lions to get here, they need to get their big stars like Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Charvarius Ward, They need to get their big stars to make a big play, like a strip sack on Patrick Mahomes or an interception, which highly unlikely is going to happen because Patrick Mahomes has been playing lights out up to this point. Although the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens had their chances to win those games against Kansas City.
Most certainly.
But I do think that the 49ers defense is going to have to make a play. We know that Chris Jones is good for about 2 or 3 tips at the line of scrimmage.
So good.
I will cringe every time Brock Purdy steps back and he throws, and because he's not tall enough. And Chris Jones, which made the difference in that Super Bowl 4 years ago, Nathan, with those
I
tip
think
passes.
a lot of really good. I think a lot of people overlook that, except folks like you that really follow sports closely. Last year, even, especially in the AFC Championship game, Chris Jones was the difference. Obviously, Mahomes and the game plan. Chris Jones is an underrated athlete. He's in his prime. He'll be with another team, I think, next year. This guy is really exceptional, and he is a bad matchup for Brock Purdy. I know that they're going to have a good game plan and solid things, and we see Purdy this season especially have some rocky starts and hang in there, especially NFC Championship. He just hangs in there and he gets better as the game goes on. He's going to have to keep from, because Chris Jones could really cause havoc there. I agree with your earlier point. When we've seen Patrick Mahomes struggle in a game like this, when we've seen him be beat in a Super Bowl, he was absolutely pressured and they just got after him all game. And I think for him, if it's close, coming down the stretch, you're going to lean Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. So what they need to do is get after him early and often. That's how you saw Tom Brady get beat in Super Bowls. You have to get after him. Can Nick Bosa and company, they have the talent to bring it? Do they have the scheme? Are they going to be able to bring it? That is absolutely how you beat an all-time great Hall of Fame caliber quarterback in the Super Bowl. You have to get after him.
Well, I think the key is for the 49ers, they cannot get behind like they did against Detroit and Green Bay. Kyle Shanahan has got to come up with a scheme, take a lead early, put some pressure off Brock Purdy, run the football with Christian McCaffrey. I do think the Chiefs' defense is going to get stops. The 49ers are going to go 3 and out. The Chiefs' defense is really going to be the X factor, and if they hold the 49ers to under 20 points, they got a chance to win this game. Remember, Brock Purdy, undefeated when the 49ers score more than 20 points, and the over and under is 44, as the 49ers are a slight 1.5-point favorite. The line started at 2.5 in the beginning of the week. Although the 49ers are the favorites, Nathan, a lot of people are picking the Chiefs because of that factor. It's Patrick Mahomes. It's Andy Reid. They've been here before. This is the team of the 2020s, which this is the worst Kansas City Chiefs team that's in the Super Bowl. I just want to come out and say that because they don't have a number one receiver. Rashid Rice, he's a rookie. He could be there sometime. Kadarius Toney drops too many passes. I mean, I think he's the X factor. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, he's a good number 2. I think that Patrick Mahomes is going to rely heavily on Travis Kelce, and their offense might start getting predictable, and the 49ers will be able to get stops on defense.
I agree that it's the most bland offense Kansas City's brought to a Super Bowl, but I think it's the best defense they've brought to a Super Bowl. I've been really impressed with some of your players, especially in the defensive backfield. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a bit of a ho-hum win, but they did the same thing last year. And I do think their offense was better last year, but they didn't have Tyreek Hill last year, and they managed to win. This team reminds me a lot of the 2006 Colts team that won a Super Bowl. They had looked better in previous years, but their defense came together. They were more bend, don't break. This McDuffie and company, they're more talented. This is the year for San Francisco. They can beat this team. Vegas or the smart money is coming in. Neither one of us are gamblers, but it seems like the smart money is coming on Kansas City because there is a lot of have you been there? There's just so much nuance to this game specifically. All the people watching, all the things that go on the 2 weeks before the game. There is an advantage to experience here. But San Francisco they have history. They have experience in big games. I don't know. For me, I lean San Francisco, but nothing would surprise me.
It is going to be a great matchup. I actually look back to the Super Bowl last year between the Eagles and the Chiefs. Remember, it was 35-35. The Eagles did have a double-digit lead. Both Super Bowl wins by the Kansas City Chiefs, they have trailed by double digits. You can never count out this team, but they haven't blown anybody out in the Super Bowl. They remind me of the Patriots in the 2000s where they were winning very close Super Bowls. I don't expect a blowout. I think this is going to be a one possession game going into the fourth quarter, and I think it's going to be an incredible game. If you're just a casual football fan, this is really the Super Bowl matchup that you want to see. I know that a lot of people wanted to see the Ravens and the Lions, and we've already seen this 4 years ago, but I think that this is the deserving Super Bowl we get because,
Good football.
yeah, it is. But the 49ers have really been the class of the NFC the last couple of years, making it to the NFC Championship for 3 years in a row, 4 out of the last 5. The Chiefs making it to 6 conference championships every time Patrick Mahomes starts a full season. I mean, this is the matchup we want to see.
Oh, absolutely. I think although these teams played 4 years ago, and there would be we think at this point, a little Kansas City Chiefs fatigue. The Taylor Swift dynamic of that blows out of the water. I think nationally, the non-sports fan wanted to see them in this game. So you have that. And then you have Brock Purdy. 4 years ago, Brock Purdy was at Iowa State. So I think he personifies what people really love about sports. Is a guy that may not look the part and did not have the pedigree, is there in the biggest stage in American sports. So, no, there's tons to root for this game. This is not a boring rematch. Those are the two big bylines for me. And I think Brian Shanahan has a chance to get in that next echelon of coaches. And I think it's going to take, a win Sunday. So I think, to me, like I said earlier, that's the big narrative. And that's what's got me excited to watch. That and the commercials.
Absolutely. I've already been watching some of the commercials on YouTube. I kind of been cheating. But I can't wait.
I've got a graph. You know me, Richard. I'm nerdy. I'm grading them. I love it, man. I love it.
Oh, I can't wait for the commercials. It's going to be funny. Some of the movie trailers, my kids are getting excited about Despicable Me 4. Also, and Usher performing at halftime. I mean, we were at Freed Harmon 20 years ago. I mean, we remember when Usher, I was playing Usher on 91.5 when I was the rock DJ in the evenings. I mean, so it really is.
He's a big deal then. He's about our age, and he grew up his early years in Chattanooga. I've always liked Usher, and I think he's I saw a profile on him on CBS Sunday Morning. He's really prepared. Been in Vegas preparing. He spends most of his time in Vegas now doing a show out there, and people rave about it. I think Lady Gaga several years ago raised the bar for the actual performance instead of just running out there and dancing around. More like Prince did 15 years ago, Michael Jackson did 30 years ago. It's an 8 or 9 minute opportunity to really put on a show, the pyrotechnics and everything. And I hope we see Usher, meet that same standard because I think he's got the talent. So it'd be fun to see.
He does have a lot of hit songs. More than likely, there's no question he's going to play Yeah. And Ludacris and Lil Jon is going to join him. It's the 20-year anniversary of probably one of the greatest songs of all time. I mean, can we easily say that?
Well, people do the prop bets, and I don't care much for that stuff. But the big prop bet is
me neither.
Come out to it seems obvious, right? That he'll come out to But I mean, what's more appropriate than in the Super Bowl than But we'll see, Richard.
Anyway, looking forward to the matchup. I look back at the time that I was a guest on your podcast, Tennessee Titans Talk. And by the way, Nathan, Tennessee Titans had a very tough year. They have a new coach, Brian Callahan, the OC of the Cincinnati Bengals. The Mike Vrabel years are over. I know Will Levis, Malik Willis, rather. I keep saying Malik Henry. Ryan Tannehill. I mean, they got their turmoil. Did Derrick Henry play his last game as a Tennessee Titan?
Probably. I think Derrick Henry is going to try to solidify his Hall of Fame resume, and I think the Titans are unfortunately going to move forward. I think he's got some good football left in him. I think he's an all-time great. He rushed in 2022 for 1,500 yards on a really bad team with a really bad offensive line. There was more of the same this year. But a lot of people in Nashville, Richard, are excited about Brian Callahan, and they're excited about Bill Callahan being the offensive line coach. They're excited about
that's right.
The 7th pick in this draft. Bill Callahan is known and wide in circles as one of the great offensive line coaches to ever live. He did a great job in Cleveland this past year, and we were worried that he wasn't going to be able to get out of that contract unless he became our offensive coordinator. It worked out. He's headed to Nashville. It's been a rough couple of years. People are excited about Brian Callahan. He's a young, offensive-minded guy. Will Levis, they need to protect him, and he needs to protect himself. They need to build an offensive line. It needs to be the priority. They absolutely need to pick. I don't like need picks. They have got to identify a guy at 7 that they want. People in Nashville mostly are praying that Joe Alt, still just 20-year-old left tackle for Notre Dame, whose dad is a Hall of Fame player. People are really hoping that he becomes a Nashvilleian in late April.
Nathan, this used to be a very winnable division when the Texans were bad, when the Colts were just recycling through quarterbacks, and now this could be one of the most competitive divisions going into 2024 with Trevor Lawrence at Jacksonville. You got D'Amico Ryans and C.J. Stroud in Houston. And then Indy, Anthony Richardson's coming back from that injury, and I like what Shane Steichen is doing. And really, that's the difference of why the Eagles just continue to regress, because I thought that Shane Steichen was the reason why the Eagles were so dynamic and they were able to get to the Super Bowl last year.
A lot of people could not shake that. They thought that Steichen, you see somebody's value when they leave, it could be a coincidence, but they could not figure it out in the back half of this season. And Steichen took a team and got all the wins from that talent that he possibly could. I was super impressed. And when they lost Richardson, they hung in there. I'm not a Colts fan by any measure, but I am an admirer of Steichen. I wasn't sure about him in that, but it seems like he might have been the backbone of that coaching staff in Philly in 2022, because they fell apart down the stretch.
Speaking with Nathan Spiess, he is a host of a podcast called Tennessee Titans Talk and does a great job with that. And let's talk about like how you got started into the podcasting business, because really I owe you a lot of credit for getting my start into podcasting. When did you first start doing Tennessee Titans Talk, and where did it go from where it is now?
Well, we started about a year before you did, and I have some friends. I'm a Titan season ticket holder, and we spend so much time, me and 2 other guys predominantly, so much time talking about our Titans. We've gone to NFL drafts in different cities, and we just had a lot of fun going to road games, going to all the home games, tailgating. We talked so much about it that we thought we got to do a podcast. It was really an emerging sort of entity. People were listening to podcasts, and I just broke down Richard and tried to figure out how to do it. I really didn't know how to do it. And we were not great. And then I started identifying people, that I thought would be great at it. And, Richard, you're at the top of that list. So that's how that came about. I wanted to get you on the show. And then I thought Richard could definitely do this way better than I could. So that's what we've seen in the encompassing years. So that's been really fun. But as far as where we've gone, it's been so surprising. We've had, about 90,000 listens over the years, and people love football, and we have a lot of passion around the NFL draft, especially. And my 2 counterparts, they're passionate for sure. It can be a little negative and a little tough on our coaching staff, but it's just been a lot of fun. It's a great way to interact with people that you like most, and why we have heard from a lot of people that listen to our podcast. We meet people and people reach out to us, and that's probably the funnest part, just the community of it.
Well, I will never forget 4 years ago, it was like a Saturday afternoon that you and I had a remote workshop session on how the ins and outs of creating a podcast, and you showed me some things, and you showed me how to edit the audio, to export it, to put it on the platform. And I thank you so much just for taking time and allowing that, and also giving me the podcast equipment to keep me successful. And I really appreciate just your generosity and your gratitude toward really just helping me elevate my podcasting career. And I just owe you a debt of gratitude. You'll be forever linked to the start of the Sports Beat, which is approaching my 800th episode. I've been doing it for 4 years, and I thank you so much, Nathan.
Anytime. I think the best is yet to come for you and your broadcasting career. It's really fun to listen to you, Richard.
Absolutely. I'm excited about the Super Bowl, and hopefully, we can have talk about a 49ers win, and looking forward to trying to get you back on the show sometime. And definitely good luck this upcoming season for the Tennessee Titans. And before I let you go, just tell everybody how they can listen to your podcast.
Tennessee Titans Talk is available on everywhere, on iTunes and Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I also do a pop culture podcast with our mutual friend Rylan Cox. We do that usually on Sundays. It's called Filmsy, Filmsy.
Ooh, I'll have to check that out.
You guys can find me anywhere that you can find a podcast. You can find us. Thanks.
All right. I appreciate that. It is Nathan Spiess. He's a host of a podcast called Tennessee Titans Talk. And we had a great time just catching up and just appreciate everything that he does. Well, that's it. That's our show. Thank you, everybody, for watching us on Facebook Live and on YouTube. Don't forget, you can download The Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts. And we are also broadcasted on WQEE 99.1 FM out of Noonan, Georgia from 2 to 3 Monday through Friday. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we will talk to you later. Bye, everybody.